And now, for our formal commencement address, I am pleased to call on Richard Florida. Richard?
First, I want to join Julie and Father and everyone in congratulating each and one of you on your graduation and on this commencement. And I want to echo Julie in singling out all of this incredible, amazing support structure. Your significant others, husbands and wives, moms and dads, children, grandmoms, granddads, uncles and aunts, relatives and friends, who are not only here to support and congratulate you today, but have been behind each and every one of your efforts for so long. I want to thank Father and the board for granting me this incredible privilege, and also the other honorary degree recipients for granting me this privilege of sharing this occasion with you. I am incredibly humbled by the honorary degree you have conferred on me. And it's one that in my continuing work, I'll sincerely try as best I can to live up to. Now, if your graduate school experience was anything like mine, you know you're a different person today than when you started out. This great university has tested you in many ways. It's tested your aspirations. It made you work hard. It's helped you forge new bonds to peers, to fellow students, to your faculty. It's made you look at your own limits and sometimes stare them directly in the face. And it's given you an incredible wealth of knowledge, but more than knowledge, understanding to move forward in your career and your lives. There's a funny thing about getting an advanced degree. The more you delve into your subject, and I certainly know it's true of me, and it continues in your life, the more you delve up into your subject and you try to make it real, the more you realize there's so much more to learn and so much more to do. But I think the other thing that a great university and a graduate program like yours does is it not only challenges you, but it gives you the baseline confidence that each and every one of you need and will draw on in moving forward with your career. Relish today and relish this moment, all of you. You have so much to be proud of. Niagara University's incredible mission of developing the whole of you, the whole person, mind, body, heart, and soul, has given you the grounding you need to move forward, and the ideal of service in and of the community, and especially to those less advantaged than us, is as generous and expansive an education as you can find. You'll be better professionals, better managers, better administrators, better teachers in everything you do. And your society, our society and your community will be stronger because of the knowledge and the professionalism you've gained. The advanced degree you're receiving today marks the end of a great and arduous journey, but it's just the beginning, as Julie said, of your real adventure as you pursue your chosen professions and get on with your life. If you've learned your lessons well, you'll never stop asking deep questions. You'll never stop pushing the boundaries of received wisdom. You'll never stop looking for better ways to do and accomplish better things and to make our world a better place for many. But right now, right here, it's important that you bask in the glow of your tremendous accomplishment. Now, I was telling Father, I too come from the product of Catholic education. I was born in Newark, New Jersey, and I know many of these great schools on the banner. My mom and dad, who were very, very working class and didn't have a lot of money, put myself and my brother in Catholic school, Queen of Peace School in North Arlington, where we were taught by the Sisters of St. Joseph and then the Christian Brothers. And an incredible thing happened. I was a good student, I persevered, and I got a full Garden State scholarship, which allowed me to go to Rutgers University as a youngster and changed my life. Took me from a very difficult working class peer group and put me in more of an intellectual middle class peer group where I didn't have to be afraid to be smart. My grandparents came to the United States from Italy more than 100 years ago. None of them had any education. My dad was born in 1921. He was a child of depression, as you've heard. My dad turned 13 in 1934 at the heart of the Great Depression. And on that day, when he was in the 7th grade, he put his books down on his desk, and he marched down to the employment office and took a job in a factory, Victory Optical, making eyeglass frames in the ironbound down neck section of Newark. When Pearl Harbor was attacked, my dad put his tools down on his factory workbench and went and fought in all the great battles, stormed the beaches of Normandy and fought in all the great battles of World War II. I learned my greatest life lessons from my parents. When I was a young boy, I used to beg my dad to take me to the factory to see the kind of work he did. And my dad would say something very important. He said, "Richard, I work in this factory so that you don't have to. It's your job to go on and get an education." And my mother reinforced his words. But trust me, I was a persistent little kid. And back in those days, we didn't have a take your son or daughter to work day. I don't know if you remember that far. But I would pull on my father's pants leg and say, Dad, I want to go see where you work. Well, on Saturdays, when the plant was running overtime, he would relent. And we'd make that great drive. And I know some of you will know it. It's exactly the same drive that Tony Soprano takes at the beginning of The Sopranos. And you might know this. I grew up speaking soprano. So how you doing there in Niagara? It's a beautiful day. I swear that Garden State Scholarship, I got English as a second language. But we'd enter that factory and I would see the machines buzzing. Now, I've heard this lesson since from great CEOs and great MBAs and business professors, but my dad taught me this first. I would be so focused on the machinery making the eyeglasses, and my dad would see me looking and he'd tap me on the shoulder and he'd say, "Son, it's not the machines that make this factory great. It's the knowledge, it's the intelligence, it's the skill of the creativity of the people who work here. They may not have advanced degrees and they hail from the world. Some were Italian immigrants, some were German immigrants, there were African Americans, Hispanic and Latino people, men and women." But he said, the key to success of this factory and this great country, my dad with a 7th grade education, comes from the knowledge and creativity of the people who still work here. Well, I didn't realize at the time that our society and our economy would change. And as our times have changed, and as you've grown, and we've all grown, instead of just physical assets and natural resources and raw materials and big factories and ports making us wealthy, what we've all come to understand, and the reason you've all continued with your education, is that we developed an economy and a society that increasingly is driven by the knowledge and intelligence and creativity, not just of a privileged elite, but of every single human being. All of us who come from a great industrial city, or if you don't come from an industrial city that struggled, Newark like me, if you look around this region and the great industrial center and the wealth it created, you realize the creativity and innovation and incredible skill that built this region and built these two great countries that border one another. I've spent a lot of time in this region, not only as a professor at the University of Toronto. I had my first academic job where your undergraduate peers will be receiving their commencement tomorrow at the University of Buffalo. I understand the challenges that stand before us because we stand right now, right here, at one of history's great turning points. Our entire society and economy are changing. And to be prepared and to move forward in your careers, you have to understand that change. More than that, you have to steward and navigate and help shepherd those changes. A new American dream turns completely on this new source of growth and wealth and prosperity. And it's one that each and every one of us share. The thing that truly makes us human, that makes us not only individuals, but a collective, that you see, parents, in your children, when they were little boys and little girls, that we see as you grow, that we see in every human being, the fundamental, elemental thing that makes us human is our human creativity. Like all great turning points, this one has its ups and downs. And certainly these are trying times, especially for people who work in factories, who live in challenged regions. But I can tell you, these are also times of great optimism and hope, when the world changes and when each and every one of you, and collectively we can make a difference. You are living, I'm envious actually, that you are living at the leading edge of this great and fundamental transformation. Those that recognize and embrace this shift, that understand that creativity is our great resource, that harness their own creativity, add knowledge and skill, and can build on the creativity of others will thrive and prosper and also give so much back to our society and our communities. What are some of the challenges you'll face? Let's start with your career. My dad, as I told you, took up that job in a factory at age 13. When he came back from the war, he went back to work in that same factory. My dad retired from that factory after more than 50 years of service at age 65. He had one job for life. My mom and dad bought a house in North Arlington, New Jersey in 1959, which they both passed away in. They had one job and one home. They never moved around. One of the great challenges of our time is the idea of a more flexible career and a more mobile person. I have moved 17 times since receiving my graduate degree. The average worker in the United States or Canada changes jobs once every 3 years. And for a young person like all of you, on average, young people under 30 change their jobs once every year. But embrace it. Understand the idea of a mobile career. Understand the idea of flexibility and moving through life as a series of interesting projects and experiences. Understand that your career is not one of a single job, but of continuous development, continuous learning. You're going to have to manage people differently. No longer are people parts in a giant corporate industrial machine like my dad was, who could come home and kick off his shoes at 5 o'clock and open a can with a can opener or a can of Schaefer beer and watch a baseball or basketball or football game on TV or the evening news. Now we have to understand, and this is so critical as you move forward beyond this day, as you begin your own careers and manage other people, our most important rewards come from within. This is what makes creative people so different from the industrial machine. Finding meaning and real purpose, not only in our work, but in our lives. Treating people as complete human beings. One of my idols and mentors, the great Peter Drucker, said this incredibly well, and this university has prepared you for this. You can no longer manage people like cogs in a machine. You have to treat your peers and your subordinates, your associates, as if they are volunteers. And you can mobilize and excite these intrinsic rewards that make them do great work. Another great opportunity and challenge of our time that is reflected so incredibly in this room, that is embraced so much by the great countries of Canada and the United States, who are world leaders on this score. Creativity is the great leveler. Creativity not only supports diversity and makes diversity and inclusiveness an ideal, a creative economy and a creative society require diversity. Human potential and creativity annihilate the social categories we have imposed on ourselves. It defies gender. Creativity comes equally in boys and girls, men and women. It doesn't care about race or ethnicity. In our own research, we found the most diverse and inclusive communities are the most prosperous, and their citizens and residents have the greatest level of well-being. If you look at the most dynamic cities and communities across this great continent, if you focus on a place like Silicon Valley, which creates all of those great new innovations and companies, the first thing you will understand is that more than 50% of the people in Silicon Valley were not even born in the United States. They've come from new lands. The creative revolution means that each and every person is required to contribute, and the organizations and communities and societies that understand that best. We are living in a global world. Fareed Zakaria, the CNN contributor and host of the show GPS, even calls it a post-American world, where the United States is a strong country, but the rise of the rest. You are going to manage and navigate your career in a post-industrial world, in a truly global and borderless world, and you have to understand those challenges. Economic revolutions like this one are periods of what a great economist once called creative destruction. Old institutions and old ways of doing things fade, and new ones arise. These are times of great dislocation, sometimes great pain, but also of incredible opportunity. We can mire in the obstacles. Even some of our political leaders, try to look backward to a bygone age and say that it was better then, but there's no going back. Guys, there's no going back. The clock of history ticks on. And as you move forward, it's critical that you're aware of this transformation and you take active steps not only to promote your own individual careers, but to help mitigate its most onerous consequences on people and communities. You can see it around you. And as a resident of Canada and Toronto, for a long time I thought Canada could avoid this. But it's just as true Canada now as the United States. You can see how this new age of economics is dividing our society. It's dividing our society by education levels, by professional orientation, and most critically and most visibly by politics. Our societies are becoming polarized, but there is a better way. We do not have to be a divided society because the emerging creative age that you will lead can and it must include every single human being. We have a tremendous obligation to reach out and reach down and pull up the people and communities being left behind. And we can do that by remembering that each and every person in each and every place is creative. Our creativity is what makes us human. We must work hard to recognize and reward the creativity of our factory workers. We must work hard in our careers to recognize and reward the creativity not only of factory workers, but the people who serve us in our daily lives. The people who sell us our food or make us our foods in restaurants, the people who take care of us when we go to a hotel, who take care of our apartments and homes, the people who will take care of our kids in daycare, who teach our children, and the people who have taken care of our ailing parents. You know, some people say we can't make service jobs better. We can. My dad told me that when he took his job in the factory in the Great Depression, it took 9 family members to make a living wage. When he came back from the war, he had a great job. He could buy a home and put his 2 sons through college. By the same techniques of leveraging productivity and innovation, by calling on workers to be included and give their ideas, who's more important? And who would you rather see make a living wage? The person who makes your car? The person who makes your refrigerator or television set or iPad, often made offshore? Or the people who take care of your home, make your food, take care of our kids and our aging parents and grandparents? To me, it's a no-brainer, and we must work so hard to rebuild our great cities, especially these fabulous cities of the Great Lakes industrial heartland that have helped to build our society. We can do it by harnessing their authenticity, by creating more walkable neighborhoods, by leveraging the housing they have, by building on their cultural amenities and way of life, by investing in their music scenes, art scenes, but most of all, by making the colleges and universities that abound in this region the central anchor institutions of that rebuilding. I lived in Pittsburgh for nearly 20 years. I saw what can happen to a town that was down on its knees as steel mills closed, not by top-down government programs and not by the fiat of political leaders, but by one community after another, from Polish to Irish to Latino and Hispanic, to Jewish to Italian American to African American, all working together to build strong and safe and sustainable neighborhoods. It is the creativity not only of workers, but of residents that's the key to rebuilding our society and our communities and a better way of life and a new dream. Now, as you move forward into this new age, I want to share some wisdom from my own experiences. Again, echoing what Julie just said. First and foremost, never let an opportunity pass by without investigating it thoroughly. And especially early on in your careers, spread your bets widely. Try on a variety of new things, not only in your work life, but in your social and personal life. And as your career moves down its path, the things you are good at and the things that you're rewarded at will come into focus, and you can then put your effort into those. You're going to experience failures. And one of the key things we've learned from studying successful and creative people is that the key to their success is persistence, it's resilience, it's the ability to fail fast, not mire in failure, to learn and recover quickly. The most successful people across fields are those that can recover and rebound. Most importantly, lead in everything you do with your gut and intuition. I know sometimes as a professor, we want to look at our rational side, do a cost-benefit analysis, understand the pros and cons. But your gut and intuition are telling you something critical. Consider that intuition your hypothesis. Your hypothesis about a problem or an issue that you are going to test and understand. But always understand that your gut and intuition are telling you something that no rationalism and no science can. Stay true to yourself. Stay true to your dreams. Stay true to your own intrinsic desires. Never lose sight of them. I cannot tell you guys how many times I pick up the phone and a former graduate student calls me in tears, saying, why did you let me lose sight of this? How did you tell me to take that job that may have offered more money? And yes, they said I had big loans, but now I'm in a track and I've lost sight of my own dreams. How do I get back there? Your dreams and your intuitions, your intrinsic insights are your most important guides. Now for all the moms and dads and granddads and grandmoms and relatives of an older generation in the audience, I want to tell you something. I've heard a lot of people say that this generation, this young generation, is self-centered. I've heard them say, you're uninvolved, you're inward-looking, you're absorbed and materialistic. I could tell each and every one of you up there, the people who say that could not be more wrong. From my everyday personal experience with working with your peers, my students, the people I get to interact with, teach me and inspire me every day. The great Jane Jacobs, before she died, we met at her little house in the Annex in Toronto, and I asked her what she thought of you and your generation. And Jane, who was in her mid-80s at that time, had this to say about your generation. She said, well, you know, Richard, they call my generation, her generation, the greatest generation. She said, but from where I sit, we weren't that great. She said, we had a world war, and we participated in many other wars. From where I sit, we didn't leave the world in much better shape. And she said, boy, oh boy, Richard, your generation, the baby boomers, have they left a mess? Look at the debt that they've created. Look at the way they got caught up with their own ideas of a me generation. Look at the temper tantrums they threw in the 1960s. She said they got better with age. But she says, when I look at my 20-year-old granddaughter, I'm in awe of her. That's Jane's words. I am in awe of her. She's a musician, she plays the violin, and she wants to start her own business. She wants to build something that not only creates a job for her, but creates a job for others. And more than that, she wants to build something of meaning to her community and her society. Those are big shoes to fill for a generation, and you have plenty of problems that we left you with. But as Jane Jacobs told me, if you look at this new generation, that's where you're going to find new leaders. And the reason is all of you sitting there understand. It's because you're going to have to cope with some big problems, and you understand the limits of just a materialist, inward-looking social orientation. You know that the key, from looking at our mistakes, that the key is building a fulfilled life, a bigger life, a life that has true meaning and purposes. So I want to encourage you to rise to the opportunities you have and the challenges you face. You're not just going to build your own dreams and careers, you're going to help to build a new and better society and help others to realize their dreams too, and help create jobs and work and prosperity for many. You can do it by fully exploiting your own talent and the gifts that you've been given by this university and your parents and support structure, and by harnessing your own creativity and the creativity of those you come into contact with. Because after all, our creativity is an infinitely renewable and completely sustainable resource. What you have to do in everything you do is reach down and tap that creativity that is so much of every human being's potential. That's the challenge of our time. That's the challenge of your generation. That's the challenge which this great university has prepared you for. Congratulations to all of you, and best of luck in your future careers.